pandemic. We want to reach higher levels of vaccination, so I invite our citizens to get their vaccinations. Get their vaccinations as soon as possible, especially in the usage of social areas and in public transport. There should be more care. Even if we solve our own problems, until the world is entirely eradicated of this virus, we cannot say this fight is over. As you also closely follow, there are new variants coming up, and we have to always be alert about this. In addition to keeping the health system going, in economy, education, and in social life, we have to protect the positive level that we have attained. We should always keep control so that we can protect the health of our citizens and we can allow daily life to go back to normal in the measures that we take. In the past, ancestors believed that it's better to be awake rather than have nightmares, and with that philosophy, we will be very careful on this journey. In commodity and food prices, there are considerable increases in the world, and many countries are facing a shortage of goods and food. But Turkey, thanks to the measures that it took on time and thanks to the strong infrastructure, is either far away from such problems or is subjected to them in a very limited way. Some products are priced globally, and their high price increases are reflected to our country in a limited way, and thus we continue supporting our citizens. But for employees who are facing challenges and for protecting the producers, we are taking every kind of measure needed. In public employee and public officer wages, we have made higher increases. We are a country that produces more. Our businesses produce and export more. And we are sure that they will also act in a way that protects their own employees. And similarly, this is an exceptional situation that is being experienced, and some businesses are using this as an excuse to make price increases, and such opportunities will be followed very closely. And as usual, our priority today is the peace of our nation, the security, the peace and the future of our nation. Without growth in economy, from growth in economy to employment and to increasing exports, we are receiving good news back to back, and these are allowing us to be more positive about the future. For instance, in August, in the balance of current accounts, we have had a $500 million surplus. And again, today, the August unemployment figures were announced. The workforce, even though the workforce participation is increasing, employment rates are also increasing, which means unemployment is going flat. Even though there are certain groups who cannot make Turkey bow politically, so they are trying to attack Turkey's economy, but still we are aware of our potential and our strength. Hopefully, we will continue making our country grow on the fundamentals of employment, export, and production. We will continue improving our economy and our current account balances. All of our strategy and our means are used for this direction, and we have started getting results. And from now on, Turkey, economically speaking, will become stronger each day. The pandemic has increased the injustices, the selfishness in the world, and it has also manifested the weak political and social structures which are behind them that were used as an excuse to cover for the peace and prosperity of a small group for many centuries. Every kind of unfair treatment was made to a certain group, to a majority of humanity, which are now voicing this concern. In the UN, we are expressing that the world is bigger than five, which is being expanded in the belief that a fairer world is possible, and we are voicing such emotions of humanity. So, as Turkey, from the Balkans to the Caucasus, or from Africa to the South Asia, in a broad landscape, we have always defended the victims, and we always voice what is right. And of course, in this dignified and principled attitude has a certain cost, and with our nation, when necessary, we did not avoid paying this hefty price. At the same time, today, Turkey is rising as a global and regional power, and one of the most important elements behind this rise is its area of impact, which comes from its principled stance. No matter where we go in the world, we see the manifestation of this beautiful climate in the eyes of the people who look up to us with great hope. There are 3.6 million Syrians in Turkey and close to 5 million foreign immigrants and asylum seekers in Turkey, and those who see them as a burden should look at this issue from this perspective. The hatred, enmity is increasing against our country, and most of the time they are ineffective, and it is thanks to the prayers of such people. For 1,000 years we have been in this landscape, in this location as our homeland, and the enmity of certain groups against us does not end, but from every color, from every belief, from every sect, hundreds of millions of people support us, and they offer us their prayers. And in the hearts of our nation there is the love for freedom and independence and future, and as long as this is the case, nobody can take this homeland from us. Of course, we can not only rely on this cordial link to sit where we are rather taking steps in order to strengthen our country in every area. We are bringing new investments and new projects in order to walk decisively towards our goals. The most assertive democracy and development project of Turkey's history was our vision for 2023. We have reached many of the goals of the 2023 vision, and we are coming to the ultimate destination. Now we are strengthening it with bigger ambitions. For a while now, global powers are coming together, especially about our 2053 vision and the closest step of that vision. Even though it may seem as a long-distance target in the scope of the life of a country, we know that the upcoming decades are a short period of time. We are trying to complete the deficiencies of our 2023 goals. On the other hand, we are preparing for the 2053 vision, which we will hand over to future generations. We have started shaping the goals. One of them is the recently declared Green Development Revolution. With the Industrial Revolution and with the Information Revolution, we have reached the peak. Some so-called developed countries currently have unfortunately exploited the environment and the natural resources. The world today is seen as one of the most important reasons for breaks in human history, and this time differently than the previous ones, a man-made reality of climate change is facing us. In production and human mobility, a slowdown took place during the pandemic, and even this has given some break to the environment according to some images taken from space. But unfortunately, this pause is far from being a solution to the climate crisis. For a while now, global countries are coming together in order to mitigate some of the grim results of the climate change. The Paris Climate Accord has emerged as a result of such surges. Even though the developed countries, which are the cause of the problem, are not taking over fair responsibility in taking steps to eliminate this problem, but still climate change is an issue which concerns everyone. As Turkey, by keeping our reservations about a fair share of responsibilities, we have ratified the Paris Climate Accord. And in the upcoming weeks, the G20 meeting will be held in Italy, and the UN Climate Summit will be held in Scotland. And in those summits, we will share with all parties the approach of our country. For the upcoming period, we will put the green development revolution at the center of all of our projects, and we will play a leading and effective role in this important problem which concerns all humanity. As the government, we have done our part, and we will continue doing our part. As late poet Cemil Meriç said, frankness and sincerity is such a language that it is heard and seen by people even who cannot hear or see. So far, we have not conducted any politics that did not have a reflection in the hearts of our nation, or no such practice. And the green development revolution will be done in the same spirit and will be offered to the appreciation of our nation, from political parties to private industry to NGOs. Every segment of society will use the opportunities of this process in the best way possible and will mitigate the risks, and we expect everyone to support this historic project. And this is not about politics or about Turkey, but this is a shared issue of all humanity. And with this understanding, we expect everyone to take part in this process in a frank and constructive way. In the past 19 years, we have taken steps of democracy and development, and this is the second most important step of our history, and I hope that this will be auspicious for our country and our nation. In climate change and migration, some new structural changes will take place, and I would like to share the good news of that with our nation. The Ministry of Environment and Urbanization will be changed to Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change, and there will be a Climate Change and Compliance Coordination Council within the ministry. And under the ministry, some relevant units will be positioned under the Directorate of Climate Change. Thanks to the close relations to this topic, the Meteorology Directorate and Desertification and the Fight Against Erosion Directorate will be tied to the Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change. These topics will it will also continue fulfilling its previous responsibilities. Another institutional reform will take place in the area of migration. the Migration Directorate under the Interior Ministry's status will change, and it will become a department, a division, so that in the issue of migration, our country will be able to act in a more comprehensive and agile way by creating this institutional capacity. We have, during the executive presidential system, we have introduced the migration administration and the climate change divisions, which I hope will serve our country well. I would like to thank the Deputy President and the Minister of Urbanization and Environment and Minister of Agriculture and Forestry for their efforts in this change. Turkey has missed the Industrial Revolution and was behind the Information Revolution, and it was not due to the lack of skills or the incompetence of our nation or of our country. At different times, Turkey has Turkey was attacked with Turkey was pushed outside these processes using political or economic means. The single party fascism was one of these tools. The coups and tutelage were one of these tools. Terror was one of these tools. From time to time it was right versus left, or Alawi versus Sunni, or Turk versus Kurd, or secular versus religious. Such polarizations were some of these tools. At every political and social chaos that we have experienced, we have also faced economic losses, especially since the 1960 coup. We have seen countless examples of this fact. At the time of our governments, we have taken major steps for development and democracy, but in order to stall those steps and in order to even take us back, similar plans were put in place. Remember, in the year 2007, without any political or legal reason, an artificial regime discussion was presented to us and a presidential election crisis was created. Then, with the Gezi Park incident and in a way to include the 15th of July coup attempt, we have experienced a second process without breaks. And we made investment in order to allow the southeast part of our country to develop, but during this process the divisive terror and the ditch and the pit terror re-emerged. Every problem that we experience inside always has a dimension which is fed and supported from the outside. And against this picture, thanks to the historic struggle that we had, thanks to the support of our nation, we were able to save our country from century-long problems. We have changed our security strategies inside our rather than facing the terror group inside our borders. We have detected and eliminated the threats at their source with the new strategy. And for this, we have strengthened our national unity, and we have strengthened we used our police, military and diplomatic powers. We fought the terror and terrorists, but also terrorism, with the investment and the services that we made available, together with 81 provinces of our country, as well as cities which suffered from terrorism. We allowed them to develop very rapidly with the women, the youth, the children, the employers, the employees, the business owners. We have dealt with the problems of people at every segment of our society with the means that we made available to answer their needs. We have strengthened our military power and our defense industry in order to protect our borders and to carry out cross-border operations. The weapons and ammunition that we needed, we started manufacturing them ourselves in order to decrease our foreign dependency. We made our country where every type of issue is discussed openly in line with rights, justice, and freedom. We have made such a structure possible. Thanks to all such steps, we have made Turkey at every corner without any exception, and every individual of our nation without any exception, we made it possible for them to enjoy the same means in a prosperous country. From tourism to the marketplace, at every minute of daily life, it's possible to observe this picture. Until recently, terrorists used to roam the mountains, but now you can see animals, farm animals, or bees, or our citizens enjoying a picnic, or tourists which are here to explore those beauties. Or until recently, terrorists used to cut off roads and disrupt peace. Now agriculture is conducted in those places. Until recently, schools were closed because of the attacks of terrorists, but now students are studying in those schools. Until recently, industry zones were empty because there were not enough investors. Now new factories are rising every day. Hopefully we will continue improving this beautiful picture, and thankfully the human and finance resources of the terror group in our borders has come to an almost end. And now, rather than parents suffering because their children were kidnapped to the mountain, we now have the joy of the mothers of Diyarbakir who have gained their children back. And as we continue working in sincerity, we have started seeing the results of the steps that we take. Only this year, 153 terror group members were convinced to submit themselves, and in the past 15 years, we were able to win back close to 1,000 young people with this method. And outside our borders, PKK, Daesh, and FETÖ terror groups, we are not allowing them to breathe, and no matter where they run to, we continue chasing them. And nobody now in this country has the opportunity to carry out divisive politics based on the expectations of a certain segment of our society. On the other hand, we are also fighting against narcotics, which is a source of revenue for terror. After the occupation of the US in Afghanistan, the opium cultivation and production increased by 20-fold. And PKK terror group was taking logistic resources from its transmission to Europe. Also, the synthetic narcotics which I produced in the developed laboratories in Europe were logistically carried to the Middle East by PKK members. At the same time, the source of the narcotics which poison our young people was mostly this terror group. We have taken our borders under control, and we have increased the sanctions against narcotics-related crimes, and we have inflicted a heavy blow on this group so that narcotics, drugs-related deaths in our country has decreased by almost 2/3 in the past 5 years. Almost 1/3 of the prisoners in prisons are there because of narcotics-related crimes. We have attacked the human and finance resources of the terror groups inside our country. We have also fought against the terror corridors which were being established alongside our borders. Recently, in migration management, we have started employing new strategies and new practices. Just like in every period in the past decade, Turkey has, in a very ethical way and in a very honorable way, has established a humanitarian security philosophy in a way to open its arms to all the victims that come to its borders. In the past, from Iraq or from the Caucasus, and most recently From Syria, we have always received waves of migration. But in the region and in the world, the developments that are taking place is not making it possible for us to continue this situation at the same level of flexibility. In the past 5 years, 2.3 million people were prevented and they were stopped at the border without being able to enter our country. Inside our borders, when we catch the number of irregular immigrants that we catch has exceeded 1.3 million. Some of them went back voluntarily, and 260,000 we deported ourselves. Almost all of these immigrants goal was not to remain in Turkey but was to go to Europe and maybe even to proceed to other places from there. Turkey, thanks to its effective and comprehensive border security and migration policy, has prevented Europe from having a wave of immigrants which it could not handle. But it is not possible for us to take this burden on by ourselves anymore, even though the promises that were previously given were not fulfilled fully. The issue is still not only limited to the sharing of financial burden, and everyone should see and accept this fact. Starting with Europe, countries which are the destination of immigrants, we expect more and more sincere responsibilities and more realistic responsibilities. The immigrant issue inside our borders, we ensure that some of them go back securely and voluntarily, and others are integrated to our country with social programs. We can solve the issue this way, and we have designed our harmonization procedures and started taking steps, and the rest is the problem of the destinations of immigrants. From the source of immigration to the destination of immigration, unless a program is developed which brings together all countries, we know that a solution to this problem is not possible. Turkey is ready to support or contribute to any step in this regard. May God help us, and with such sentiments, once again, I send my greetings and my regards to all of you.